Hello everyone, wishing you all a wonderful day. Today, we're diving into a heartfelt New Year story where Dee makes an emotional promise to give Huyen the wedding she never had, and together they begin planning a simple but meaningful future for their little family. If you enjoy stories filled with love, healing, and fresh beginnings, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next videos. On the gentle morning of the 5th day of Lunar New Year, Huyen stands in the soft golden light of her countryside home, the camera catching the calm fields behind her. She smiles into the lens, her voice warm and steady as she sends her wishes through the screen, wishing everyone a peaceful and happy 2026. She says softly, like she's speaking to close friends rather than an audience. She thanks everyone for the encouraging messages over the past year, a year she describes as full of both storms and sunshine. There were moments when she felt like giving up, she admits, but it was the invisible support from viewers that kept her standing. Next to her, Dee and little Maya smile shyly. The three of them form a quiet picture of hope. It's not flashy or grand, just a small family framed by a tomato garden glowing red in the early sun. As the camera slowly pulls back, Dee turns to Huyen and asks in a low voice, "What are you thinking about?" Huyen pauses. Her eyes drift toward the fields, as if replaying memories only she can see. "So many things," she says. "Another year has passed. We've known each other for 2 years already. It feels like we just met yesterday." De nods, his tone calm and reassuring. "It hasn't been too long, but it hasn't been short either. We've gone through a lot together. Happy days, hard days, all of it. There's a stillness between them, heavy but gentle." Huyen smiles faintly as she remembers the first day she met Dee, the day everything quietly began to change. Sunlight slips through the tomato leaves, scattering warm patterns across their faces, almost like proof of time passing. Gratitude fills her chest. She doesn't say it out loud, but it's there, in the way she looks at him, in the way she stands a little closer. Then Dee takes a breath. His voice trembles slightly, but he doesn't look away. "After everything we've been through," he says, "I want to give you a proper wedding." Huyen turns, surprised. A flicker of worry crosses her face. "A wedding? But that would cost a lot, wouldn't it?" Dee shakes his head firmly. "No matter what, I still want one. If we don't have much, we can make it small. I'll work harder. I just want you to have something proper. I don't want you to feel hurt anymore." At his words, old memories rush back. Huyen lowers her head, her voice soft. "Back then, I never really had a wedding. With Thuk, everything was rushed because of the debt he brought home. There wasn't a ceremony, no celebration." Tears quietly slip down her cheeks, but she smiles through them. "Now, if we have little, we'll do little. Keep it simple. I don't need anything big or flashy. Just something small and warm is enough." Dee tightens his grip on her hand. "I'll do my best," he promises. "I don't want you to feel sad ever again." Around them, the tomato garden glows bright red under the rising sun. A gentle breeze moves through the vines, as if the world itself is listening. In Huyen's heart, the regrets of the past begin to loosen their grip. In their place, a fragile but real hope starts to grow. After a quiet moment, Dee smiles again, his tone lighter now. "Your mom already told me something," he says. Huyen looks up quickly. "What?" "She said after the first lunar month, she'll choose an auspicious date for us, a small wedding." Huyen's eyes widen. Mom really said that? De nods. She did. She treats me like her own son. She's accepted me. Relief and joy wash over Huyen's face. She squeezes his hand tightly. Mom is so kind. That makes me really happy. Having her support means everything. They begin talking about the future, about Maya, about building a better life. We have to try harder, Huyen says softly, for Maya, so she can grow up equal to her friends. De nods. I just hope she studies well. I don't want her to struggle like we did. And I hope this year is smooth, Huyen adds, that we stay healthy and can keep working. The moment feels almost sacred, like a quiet prayer spoken between two people who have survived countless storms and finally found calm water. Soon, the morning continues with ordinary tasks. Day and Maya stand among the tomato vines, the red fruits shining like jewels. Maya wakes fully, rubbing her eyes before breaking into a bright smile when she sees her mum and Uncle D. Let me pick tomatoes with Uncle, she shouts happily. Day laughs. Okay, but only the ripe ones. Maya carefully examines each tomato before placing it in the basket. Her laughter echoes through the garden. Huyen watches from nearby, her heart swelling with warmth. Dee peels the skin off a freshly picked tomato and hands it to Maya. Try this. It's sweet. Ours are clean. Maya takes a bite, her eyes lighting up. So sweet. It's such a small moment. Just a tomato in a garden, but it feels meaningful. The breeze carries the scent of soil and home. Happiness, Huyen realizes, doesn't always come in big events. Sometimes it's hidden in simple mornings like this. Later, Dee takes Maya out on the river. The small boat drifts across the quiet water. De rows carefully while Maya sits close beside him. Stay near me, he reminds her gently. Don't stand up by yourself. Maya nods seriously as they cast the net. They wait, watching the water ripple. Suddenly, the net jerks. There's something, Maya squeals. They pull together, laughing as a large fish struggles in the mesh. Such a big fish, Uncle. The first fish of the year. Their laughter spreads across the water like a blessing for the new year. Back home, Dee calls Thomas. We're having the opening meal today. Come join us. Thomas says he'll try, but later sends word that something urgent has come up. In a quiet corner elsewhere, Thomas stands before Lisa's grave. It's been nearly a year since she passed. His voice breaks as he remembers her. The contrast between his silent grief and the joy by the river feels sharp. Life, it seems, always carries both happiness and sorrow side by side. Meanwhile, Dee returns home and cleans the fish, preparing for the meal. The rhythm of chopping and washing feels grounding. No matter what pain exists in the world, they still hold on to the good. The river keeps flowing. So does life. As midday approaches, Huyen walks along the sunny village path, with a basket filled with pork and spices. She runs into Hannah outside. You're back? Come help me cook, Huyen calls out. Hannah smiles and lifts a jar. I made coconut jam, brought some for you. Back in the kitchen, the smell of frying fish fills the air. Maya runs around excitedly. Hannah laughs as she places her homemade jam on the table. It's simple, she says modestly. See if you like it. Huyen grins. You're so talented. They boil pork, prepare salad, unwrap fragrant sticky rice cakes. The kitchen buzzes with energy and laughter, pushing away the last chill of Tet. Huyen's mother is still at the pagoda, and somehow the waiting adds a quiet sense of reverence. As Huyen looks around at everyone gathered, her heart feels full. These ordinary tasks, cooking, chatting, laughing, become threads, weaving them together. Soon, her mother returns from the pagoda, carrying a blessed gift for Maya. Her face glows gently as everyone gathers around the tray of food: fried fish, boiled pork, sticky rice cake, coconut jam. She raises her voice warmly. In the new year, I wish you all health and happiness. And what I hope most is that you two have your wedding. Huyen and Dee exchange emotional glances. Maya looks confused. What's a wedding, Grandma? Grandmother smiles. It means Uncle Dee and Mom Huyen get married. Do you want Mom to wear a beautiful dress? Maya claps her hands. Yes, laughter fills the room. Glasses rise in a toast to health and peace for the whole family. They eat, share food, wrap spring rolls. Even though Thomas couldn't make it, the warmth doesn't fade. As late afternoon sunlight slants through the window, it feels like a quiet blessing for everything ahead. In the gentle clinking of bowls and soft laughter, this small family finds strength, love, and a shared dream beginning to take root. As the meal slowly winds down, the house grows quieter, but the warmth lingers. The afternoon sun stretches long golden lines across the floor, catching on the empty bowls and half-finished plates. Outside, the village settles into its familiar rhythm. Distant voices, a motorbike passing, the rustle of bamboo leaves in the breeze. Huyen begins clearing the table, but Day gently stops her. Sit down for a moment, he says. You've been busy all morning. She hesitates, then smiles and lets herself rest. It's a small thing, but to her, it means a lot. To be cared for, to not always be the one carrying everything alone. Maya, full from eating, leans against her grandmother and starts asking endless questions about weddings. Will Mom wear a princess dress? Will there be flowers? Can I throw flowers? Everyone laughs. Grandmother answers patiently, yes, there will be flowers, and maybe you can carry them too. Maya gasps dramatically. Then I'll practice walking slowly. Her innocence fills the room with lightness. Huyen watches her daughter, her heart soft. For so long, she worried about whether Maya would feel the absence of a stable family. But today, watching her laugh so freely, she feels hope blooming. After cleaning up, Dee steps outside to check on a few things around the yard. Huyen follows him. The tomato vines glow in the softer afternoon light, and the air feels calmer than in the morning. You're quiet, Dee says, leaning lightly against the fence. I'm just thinking, Huyen replies. It feels strange. For the first time in a long time, I'm not afraid of what's coming next. Dee looks at her carefully. You've carried fear for too long. She nods slowly. Back then, every day felt uncertain. I didn't know how I would pay debt, how I would raise Maya, how I would survive. And now I'm still worried, she admits, with a small laugh. But it's different. It feels like we're facing things together. Dee reaches for her hand again, something he's done so many times today, yet each time feels just as steady. We are, he says simply. They stand there quietly, watching Maya chase a butterfly nearby. It's such an ordinary scene, yet it feels like a quiet victory. Later in the afternoon, Day sits down with some papers and begins calculating expenses: seeds, fertilizer, repairs for the small boat, household needs. Huyen joins him. If we save a little each month, he says thoughtfully, we can prepare for the wedding without pressure. Huyen studies the numbers. We don't need much, she reminds him. Just family, close friends, a simple meal. Des smiles. I know. But even simple things deserve preparation. They begin discussing practical details, borrowing chairs from neighbors, cooking at home instead of ordering, maybe asking Hannah to help decorate with flowers from the garden. The conversation feels grounded, realistic. There are no grand fantasies, just careful steps towards something meaningful. As evening approaches, the sky turns shades of pink and pale orange. The village loudspeaker plays soft music in the distance, a familiar Tet melody drifting through the air. Thomas finally sends a message. He apologizes again for not coming and says he'll visit soon. Dee replies kindly, telling him not to worry. Huyen knows Thomas still carries deep grief. Losing Lisa changed him. She silently hopes that one day he too will find peace, like the kind she's slowly discovering. Inside the house, grandmother helps Maya wash up. The little girl grows sleepy, her earlier excitement fading into yawns. "Grandma," Maya mumbles, "when Mum gets married, will we still live here?" Grandmother smiles gently. "Of course. A wedding doesn't take your mum away. It just means more happiness." Maya seems satisfied with that answer. After putting Maya to bed, Huyen steps outside once more. The night air is cool, and the stars are scattered brightly across the sky. In the countryside, the sky always feels wider, deeper. Dee joins her, carrying 2 cups of warm tea. "For you," he says. She takes it gratefully. They sit side by side on the porch steps. "Do you ever feel scared?" she asks quietly. "Of what?" "That something good won't last." Dee thinks for a moment before answering. "I used to. But I realized something. Even if life changes again, it doesn't erase what we've built. These moments are real. No one can take that away." Huyen looks at him, absorbing his words. "I don't need a perfect life," she says softly. "I just want a peaceful one." He nods. "Peace takes effort too. We'll protect it." The crickets begin their nightly chorus. Somewhere far off, a dog barks. The ordinary sounds of village life feel comforting rather than lonely. Huyen reflects on the journey that brought her here. The mistakes, the heartbreak, the long nights of worry. She doesn't regret surviving. She doesn't regret the scars. They led her to this quiet porch, this man beside her, this sleeping daughter inside. The wedding they spoke about earlier no longer feels like a distant dream. It feels possible, not because of money or decorations, but because of acceptance. Her mother's blessing, Dee's determination, Maya's joyful approval. "I used to think I didn't deserve another chance," she admits. Dee turns to her. "Everyone deserves another chance." She smiles faintly. "Then let's make this one count." They sit together until the tea grows cold. Inside, grandmother prepares incense for the small ancestral altar, whispering prayers for health and harmony in the coming year. The faint scent drifts through the house, mingling with the last traces of fried fish and coconut jam. The 5th day of Lunar New Year slowly comes to an end. It hasn't been a dramatic day. There were no fireworks, no grand events, just conversations, promises, laughter, a simple meal, a boat ride, tomatoes in a basket. But within those simple moments lies something powerful, healing. As Huyen finally lies down beside Maya, she listens to her daughter's steady breathing. She brushes a strand of hair away from the child's forehead and closes her eyes. In the next room, Dee turns off the last light. The house grows quiet. Outside, the tomato garden rests under the moonlight, vines still and patient. The river continues flowing in the dark, carrying with it both the pain of the past and the hope of tomorrow. And in that small countryside home, Beneath the vast 2026 sky, a family, once broken, once uncertain, steps gently into a new year with fragile but unwavering faith.